The round 19, buy, hold, risk it, and sell. We're going to focus a lot on, obviously, the buys this week, a little bit on potentially some of the holds, but I think this week, if you've got someone that is clearly playing this week, if you've got someone that you want in your team, and you're playing 17 next week and onwards from there, I think they're going to be a hold as well. And then there's a few guys that you could sell, and if you have trades, you could potentially make an upgrade. Like if you've got a Piakura or something in my situation who is playing this week, but you're not expecting the world out of him, you could upgrade him as well if you've got some trades left and you think that helps your team longer term. So there's a few things you can do this week. We're going to kick it off with a hooking position with Curacao, the only one we didn't speak about in that gun 17, pick one of these hookers type of range. So I just want to focus on him. I've got a few comparisons, Brown, Sipley, Daniel Saifidi. We got the edge situation with a couple of those, one-on-one, head-to-head type of situations as well. So hopefully we can get some answers for you and for my side as well. So Api Coruscant at 645, a little bit cheaper than Grant, and then 110, 120k cheaper than someone like Damien Cook. Price at the 46 has a 41 break even, averaging 47 for the year. We've had some low games in there, clearly. You can see there through round 4, basically, all the way through until round 11, where he started picking it up again. But he did have a bit of an issue with his back, obviously, and was carrying a few issues there, and picked up a 64-minute game and a 56-minute game. So he wasn't his best, attacking best anyway in that one. Did pick up a couple of try assists in those first couple in round 5 and 6, but had a little period there where he really struggled. And we know that he can have these types of periods of time and games, right? But looking at the next bunch of weeks is probably where you want to look at with Appy, right? So you've got Cronulla without Nico, you've got the Bunnies without Latrell, you've got the Wars, who are sort of a solid team at the moment, along with Cows and Newcastle. Back into Bunnies again, but you imagine Latrell's back for that. And then Manly into their bye in the second last week, and then Parramatta. So with Coruscant, it's a pretty solid situation. You expect to hit somewhere around where he's priced at. If that's good enough for you, sweet. Otherwise, you have, and we have, another clear, very solid option there in next week, and that's Tom Starling. So he doesn't play this week, but he's someone to keep in mind for your squad and potential downgrade option next week. And it's what I'm doing with my team. It's just which player I end up trading down to get Tom Starling, right, for next week. That's kind of where I'm thinking at the moment, and which players I want this week that are likely going to be with me for the entirety of the season. So make trades according to that this week, and then have, if Starling, for me, I only have one hooker. So Starling will definitely help on the backup side, and he's also scoring really, really well. And we've seen him across the longer term, in a lot of games down here, which I went through with Scoop there with 50s, 60s, 40s in good minutes in starting hooker, even off the interchange bench. When he gets sort of, that 50-odd minutes, he's up in the high 30s, 43 there, 71-minute game for 46. So he can be up there definitely 80-minute, 70-minute games for 31 in one of them, but 50s and a 60 in the other. So price at 372 with a negative break even, which is priced at a score of 27. He's an awesome guy to target next week, and is someone I'll be looking at personally as a guy to slot into my side. So again, I'll be trying to plan that out over the next day or two as to how I get him in, who for, and what we do from there. So that's that. Let's go to the mid little jewel of the cheaper guys. So Nathan Brown at 445. I did have a look at the casualty award. It still says TBC for Paseka there. But the big thing with Nathan Brown is his PPM this year has been pretty gross up until the last 2 weeks. Last 3 weeks, he's gone nuclear. So don't know where that came out of. He's a 0.69 PPM guy for the season, and that includes these 3 games here where he went 49, 57, and 59 in minutes that he has seen this season. That 50-minute game, he got 26 in round 1 for him. He's got 26 and 49. He has 23 and 51 minutes, and he just started playing incredibly well. Offloading again, getting big tackle numbers, but the meters gained has gone up as well. So I'm not sure if that's going to stick around for the long term. This week, you'd imagine he does play those bigger minutes like he got in round 16 where he got the 57, but he's at 445 now. And is he someone that you think could definitely go back to these type of scores and minutes? Or is this something that's going to stick around for the rest of the season? And at least you'd assume that he's going to keep his spot in the team. It's just how many minutes is he going to get? Because if you do compare him to Tofa Sipley, what we've got there is a 395. So 50k difference. The break even is is obviously a little bit higher, which is fine. But Nathan Brown's priced at 32 as well, so keep that in mind there. We do see and know that Sipley doesn't need to get massive minutes, which it looks like Brown at the moment, well, these last 3 weeks, it hasn't mattered too much. His PPM's been incredible, but for the earlier part of the year, he needed that PPM. He needed those minutes to get a good score because of the PPM, whereas Sipley, we know he's got a 1 PPM. He's 50k cheaper. I still, if you're looking at a comparison between the two, I would take the cheaper guy, who we know is going to be there in the team as well. They both are, but it's just the minutes-wise. If they both drop, Sipley's going to be the one to not be hurt as much, if that makes sense. So that's why I'd look to him. They both have a bye in round 22, the week after that Daniel Saifidi does in the Knights. They're at 390k. He's priced at 28 there, so very similar to that of Sipley. And he's kind of just exploded over the last couple of weeks there with a little bit of an increase in minutes. And surprisingly, with him as well, you did see him score pretty poorly and have a pretty average PPM across the start of the season. And then he's another one of these guys that's really improved over the last few weeks, but has been getting 55 and 54 minutes. And he did see Leo Thompson back the week just gone, and that didn't affect him either. So it's just good to see him back and getting some regular minutes and getting back into some form, which he wasn't really showing in that first 8 to 9 weeks of the season. So Saifidi, another one that if you've got no Knights, I think he's an easy one to slot in at 390 that could do a job. And I think for the most part with these three guys, you're probably expecting and hoping for a 35 to 40 score. And I think you'll be pretty happy with that, because that means, at least for Saifidi and Sipley, you're getting sort of 7 to 10, 12 points of value. Whereas Brown, you're probably hoping for a 40 minimum if it's worth it, given he's priced, for it to be worth it, given it's priced at the 32 mark. So yeah, an interesting little comparison, those three. And yeah, I think probably personal preference as well comes into it with those guys, especially if you're going Sipley v Daniel Saifidi, because they've both done it in the past, done really well, but Sipley hasn't needed as many minutes, probably not as much of a hothead, probably is more of a hothead than that of Daniel Saifidi. So a couple of things to think about there. All right, we start to get into the more expensive mids. We have half duel, obviously, with Plath as well. And someone asked, if Plath keeps playing at 9, will he get hooker duel? And that would have been great, but you can't have more than 2 positions in your name there. So half and mid is what he will stay with for the season. He might start next season with mid and hooker if he actually plays the rest of the season at hooker, which I think he should get that tag. And that could be a fun one for sure if he goes back to 13 in that slightly different role, obviously. But the worry here with Plath, and I have him in my side, and I'm a little bit worried about it here, is potentially the minutes. So if he was to get 60 minutes or 65 minutes just at the number 9 position, I don't think he scores anywhere near as well as he has been in previous weeks. So we know here he's had a really good year, averaging 50.4 for the season, and in recent history, 350s in a row, a 46 into a 65 there, which he did spend a decent amount of that time at lock, but he'd done a lot of his damage running the footy in that first half. So if he goes to 9, I do worry about his running game, and he's going to have 55 tackles or 50 tackles or 45 tackles to score close to a 50 on a regular basis. So I think with Plath, if you have the ability just to wait 1 week, I still think is a really good buy, but just to find out if that case, which I think is probably like a 20% chance or 25% chance there, that he just sticks at 9 and doesn't play the full 80. If that was to come about, I don't think he's worth bringing in. If there's a world where he plays 60 in 9 and then goes to 20 in the middle, that could be really helpful, like in a 13 role. That could be great for him. If he plays a full 80 at 9, I think he's going to be fine. But it's really just that first scenario that I mentioned, that if Sean O'Sullivan comes on and plays some 9, or they move things around, it could be a little bit troublesome for him. Not sure if O'Sullivan's there just for cover or if he's there to take a few of Plath's minutes. So I think wait this week on him. Maddo, he is someone that I'm potentially looking at. Just what you need to look at with Maddo is obviously when he gets big minutes on an edge, he does good things, right? Anything where it's over 60 minutes there on an edge across his career, he has tremendous record. 56 is the average in 77 minutes. If you just look to obviously this year in 2024, when he's had that opportunity, it's in 3 games and he's averaging 50.3, priced at 40. If you look at last year when he got that opportunity, it was a 58.6 average. So very, very good. And in 2022, it was a 54.7 in 3 games there for a 73-minute average there. So all of these options here, it's over 50 average, priced at 40. It's very, very hard to see him not continuing to do good things. Surprisingly, it's Madison and Dury starting this week, and then you've got Cartwright on the bench, and then you also have another edge there that can come on and play in Sean Lane. So there are still a few worries about Maddo, but I do think that if he has the opportunity to play this edge spot for the rest of the year, you'll be very, very happy with the dual position mid-edge that'll miss just round 20 and will play the rest of the season. So as I said, someone that I'm very heavily considering as a guy you might want to look at in your squad. And let me know what your thoughts are on Maddo. It's a hard one to pass up. I think having the bye next week and a little bit of uncertainty around his potential role this week and going forward could be a little bit of a catalyst to be a small problem. But you do see here, just in general, when he gets some decent minutes there, over 40 for 2024, he's still averaging 46, and that's in 59 minutes between lock, the interchange, and the second row. And if he did that at worst at dual position, I think he'll be fine for the rest of the season, and he obviously has a tremendous amount of upside, does Ryan Madison. Cam McInnes, priced at 51, 716k. He is obviously 2.5 points below his current average for the season, coming off a couple of low ones there, the 47-26. But the last 2 weeks, he's gone 90 and 56, and he's a clear guy, I think, that will play the rest of the season. Minutes-wise, he's going to be needed to play the mid-50s to 60 minutes longer term, and in that case, he does have a really, really nice PPM. We just looked at 2024, and the PPM he's thrown up is a very nice 0.92. So if he can get 60 minutes, expects 54 to 55 points, and that's exactly what I expect from McInnes. So if you haven't got him yet, or if you're interested in him, he's a really nice one to grab. But we start to compare him and Plath with that of Keon Kolomatangi, who is a little bit more expensive at 756k. And as I mentioned in the top 17 guns video, he is clearly in that at the moment. The quality that he's throwing out this year, especially in this last sort of 5-6 weeks, has been nothing short of terrific. 104 into a 47, 53, 68, and 69 the past bunch. He has had 4 tries in that time. And the big thing last week was the fact that he picked up, 5 weeks in a row now, he's gone over 200 meters, which is just unheard of for a middle forward here. Since, Jason Taumalolo, but he's obviously not as damaging as he was during that time. But he's got offloads to his game. He has dropped down the missed tackles in the last couple of weeks as well, from that sort of 5-3 range in a bunch of them. So can he keep this up for the rest of the year? I do think he plays every single game from here on in, which in itself is an absolute godsend. And that's why I'd be looking at him with a dual position, plays every game, and has the potential to do what he's done in the last 5 weeks. He's priced at 54 now, so it's getting a little bit more expensive, but if he can do anything like he's done, you take out that trial for kick in round 16, and that would have been a 61 there in that one. So 61 and 69 in pure base, basically, in the last couple of weeks with just 1 turnover tackle, no try savers in that time. He actually doesn't have any try savers, and that's his 3rd turnover tackle. So he hasn't even done it really on that side of the ball. So very, very interesting one. Obviously, the worry is going back to the edge next week if Arrow does succumb to this injury and they finally send him for surgery. But if it stays as it is, he'll be a godsend, averaging like 60, very close to sort of 70 minutes or something like that, like he did last week in that middle role. He could be a godsend and super, super important for everyone's side that ends up holding him or picking him up, which would be really cool. He's at 22% owned across the board there. Hamoli Olakawatu at 661. So he's a very, very fun pick this week, that's for sure. And just something to note, guys, in season 2024, when he has not had an injury-affected game, so he had a 76-minute one in round 2, but that was fine there. You just take out that game there. He's actually averaging 57.3 this year. And it does include 4 tries, but that's nothing crazy. He has 4 try assists in there. He has a bunch of line breaks, obviously 6 for the year as well, but he's a damaging back row forward. Heard some really cool news as well. Like, apparently, he took the news that he wasn't in Origin really well, said he'd be happy to come and train with the team if that helps the boys out and stuff. And then, who was it? Rugby League Guru put up a post when he was reacting to the team, and Olakwatu liked it straight away. So he seems like just such an awesome guy, and he's obviously taking that news really well, and he understands what he needs to do or what the team needs, and he's obviously not part of that at the moment. So it really looks like he has turned a corner this year. Like last year, during this time where he was really pushing for an Origin spot here, where he was scoring back 360s in a row, scoring a bunch of tries. He then fell apart through the Origin period there, 39, 29, 45, 53, obviously 37 in there as well. And then had a pretty solid sort of back end of the year with a bunch of 49s into a 68, 93 in the last game. He ended up with a 52 average, but looking at this year, I think he's actually improved as a player. He's so much more consistent. 2024, missed tackles at 2.4 there. Missed tackles last year at 2.9. Tackle numbers are actually just a tick down. But the tackle breaks and the offloads, I think the big one as well. So offloads at 1.1 in total. This year, he was actually at 0.5 on the offloads. So the offloads increased, and I just think that he's just so much more damaging this year. And has that ability just to run over teams and get that base stat as well, whether it's, meters gained at 134.4 this year compared to that of 126. Like every stat has just gone up across the board. Yes, that's only, a 1 point extra, but it all adds up, right? When offloads are up, when missed tackle numbers are down, errors in there at 0.4 this season compared to 0.6 last season, they're all just slightly better. And I do think he's a slightly better player. And if you just look at that alone, if he was to average 57 for the year from here on out, you would be absolutely cheering because you're getting someone at least 120k underpriced if he was to average that. But I think at a minimum, he's a 54 guy, which is exactly what he's averaged this season. And at worst, he's a 52, right? And in that case, he's 5 points undervalued for a guy that I believe is only going to miss one more game for the rest of the season in round 22 there, which is their buy. So a 661, he's also a guy I think you're getting undervalued who has the safety in the side, which is something different to Madison. If you compare them, they're 100k difference. He doesn't have a bye next week. He has it a couple weeks later, which is easier to manage if you have him and Ruben or something like that, if you have Sipley as well or whatever. So there's some security around it. It's a cheaper guy that can average gun category scores. And I do think he's a terrific option for those, for your sides this week. So I want to vouch for him this week. I think he's going to be, he's obviously a point of difference player at the moment. If he can go bang with a high 60 score, then that really helps you. I do think he's going to be brought in a decent amount after this video, not just because of me, but I think that some people will be thinking about it or potentially going to do it, and this might push them over the edge. And I hope it does, because I might be doing it myself. Britt Nikora, if you're obviously comparing with, Olakwatu, as an easy example, they're very, very close in price, 30k difference. The main difference with Nikora is the bye next week compared to that in 22, like I was mentioning before there with Madison as well, with the bye in round 20, but Nikora is a fair bit more expensive. If you're looking to 2023, we know what Nikora is able to put up in these big minute games, 52.5. So Olakwatu is actually scoring better than that, what Nikora did last year. So just as an easy comparison there. And then you look to this year, he's averaging 48.5. But the last 3 weeks have been absolutely incredible with 3 try assists, 2 tries, and 5 line breaks and 1 line break assist. So it's been terrific, the attacking stats wise. His tackle numbers are clearly in the 40s and not, still 5, 4, and 5 misses, but nothing crazy. He had 3 offloads last week. He had a couple of turnover tackles. So things are going right for Britain at the moment. You may have missed his scores, right? So he's had this little run of games. It may slow down a bit. He doesn't have Nico next to him, but he does come up against the Tigers. He does come up against the Cows, Rabbits, Titans, Newcastle Dragons, and they're all terrific matchups. And they're easily games where he could score tries and continue to set up tries and get offloads and the like. So I actually can't split him and Olakwatu too much. It's really more about if you can stomach that bye next week and you don't have, if you're selling Hines or you don't have him, you only have Iro and you don't have the Madisons and these types of guys here, then you could easily go with Nikora over Olakwatu. And if you feel a bit more safer with him, if you want to go a bit more with the pack, then I suggest go that way. If you want to be a little bit more of a point of difference and potentially a little bit more upside, but again, both of these guys have those low scores and the higher scores in them, and they don't usually go absolutely bang with the sort of 75 plus scores. They're just high 60s guys with tries. So really, really solid look there. And then you go to Ewan Akins. I've got him in this edge section now just to compare him with the other higher priced guys that we're looking at across the edge and middle position there. So with Aiken, he's priced at the 55, averaging 56 for the year. The break-even's a little bit higher after 240 scores into a 57. But you just know that you're going to get somewhere between that 40-odd all the way up to a 75 with Aitken at the moment, or an 81 apparently in an 88-minute game, but I think 75 in 80 there. He's got through that last bye, and I think he's going to play the rest of the year. So Ewan Aitken is one of those guys I just think you need in your side. There's obviously a few teams that don't own him still. 75% of the top 5,000, 85 out of the top 100. He's a really cool guy to grab into your sides who's going to play every single game, has edge and center duel. Very, very important in my opinion. Dave Fafita, he's the other guy that is going to play every game from here on out, barring injury, in my opinion. At 847, he's still not completely owned by everyone in the top 5,000. 15% are missing out on him, 12% in the top 1,000. His break-even's nothing out of this world. He didn't play incredibly well last week, obviously, as to why Billy hasn't picked him. And I don't know if I'm the only one here. Let me know in the comments, but I feel like I'm the only one that is, can see Billy Slater's side to this. My only problem here is that Kirk Capewell isn't playing great footy, but we know that Queensland bring in guys that aren't playing incredibly well, and they do an awesome job for Queensland. I'm seeing the same things that Slater's seeing in terms of his play out in the field. People are just looking at the stats alone, and I understand that, and you can say that about Jeremiah and I missing tackles and stuff, but it's what they're showing. It's the little effort areas that are showing. Like a missed tackle here and there or a lot of missed tackles a game is not a problem if it's got the effort plays. So that's more the thing around Origin. That doesn't really matter too much for this video. But at 847k, priced at the 61, he is averaging 3 points higher than that, and he's a terrific captaincy option week to week. He had a bit of a down game last week and still got 56. Picked up a try saver. Only had 4 tackle breaks, had 1 offload. Thankfully, had a try saver and 2 turnover tackles that saved him this week, and that's going to be one of the worst games you'll see from him. So a very simple, safe captaincy option against Parramatta this week. He might be up against Matt Dury. I think that's the way they're going to play that one. So, yeah, just a straight swap with Cartwright. So I wonder how that's going to play out there with Fafita. I just think you need to get him in your side, basically, and he's one of those top guns that, without Hines being there, it's an easy straight swap too. All right, into one of the cheapies of the week, Mr. Charlie Geimer. So 240k. He has like a 35 to 36 average in New South Wales Cup in pretty big minutes though, between lock and edge. So what you saw here with his missed tackles, I think is going to be pretty stock standard. But he looked great out there. He worked really hard. He made 26 tackles, got a TB, got a TO, got 109 meters gained. And I think, for him, you're really hoping now that if he actually does start this game, that you get sort of 50 odd minutes out of him and he can score somewhere in the mid 30s to 40. And if you can do that this 1 week, and then it gets, maybe you can stay there. If you can get 45 to 50 minutes, you could expect anywhere around the 30 mark. And I think that'll be serviceable in times when you need a player. And at 240k, you could definitely do way worse than picking Charlie Geimer. He is fun to watch too. Like, he looked great the other week. So yeah, interesting one there as a cash down that is likely to play a lot of the games come the rest of the season, which is what you want in a cash down. I might look to him personally in round 20 or 21 if I do need one more cash down to facilitate some of these guns. That's what I'm potentially thinking there, with Starling being one of those cheaper guys as well to target there. So Braden Trindle at 469k. He is an interesting prospect because if you write in Hines there and you look at him without Hines, it gets pretty good because you're looking at him at is it all halfback? It's all halfback, isn't it? Oh, it's 3 at 5'8". That's all right. We'll mainly just say the halfback position because that's what he will be playing. And across his career, it's a 49.3 average there without Nico, which is pretty wild. And last year we saw it obviously in full swing where he got 450s or 350s in a row. And you see there a 55, 87, 46, 60, 70. He's not that same player this year, I don't think, but I do expect somewhere around that 40 average, price at 34. So it's not the end of the world. Not going to be a world break, I should say, but it'll be solid going forward. You compare him to Will Price at 442, and he's had 2 really nice games there, 45 and 49. He actually kicked that goal, the second one there. He made good tackle numbers last week, really learnt from that. He had 3 errors still. There's plenty to learn from him, but he had 237 kick meters and ran for over 198 the week before. So he's a really simple guy that is getting his stats across the board. And at 442 with the half and a wing fullback duel, if things keep going fairly well for the Knights and they can get a win this week, I think he'll keep his spot in this side for the rest of the year. And they'll continue to develop him and at a very much a point of difference and someone that can score in the 40s. I think that he's a really solid one to pick, and I probably would pick him over Trindle at this stage. Just gut feel. Trindle feels a little bit gross. So I think it'll be about 40, where price could be a little bit above that and is a little bit cheaper. So I don't know. I think they're both pretty similar. And then Jack Whiten. So at 482, he's getting up there in price now, priced at the 34. What you need to look at with Whiten, I suppose, is the next month of footy. It's Dolphins, Tigers, Canberra, into Sharkies, which will be a bit harder, Melbourne, and then Tigers there. So it's a pretty nice 6 weeks of footy. And what we see here when he moved to 5/8 is a pretty solid average there. So 57 there. He had 24 basically at half time. So he was on for a 40 odd. 57 into 30, 38, and 67 with a 2-try effort. So he's actually kicking the footy plenty as well and running it close to 100 meters or plus every single game. So you put those stats together and there's sort of a really nice base between that and the tackles of closer to the 25 to 30. And then he's going to get attacking stats, whether it be assists or tries himself, tackle breaks, and the odd offloads as well. And that's what really came out on the weekend. He's someone that I'm definitely interested in at 482K. I do think you're going to get better scores out of someone like Madison, but he's a decent amount more expensive. I think Whiten, I'd probably just pick him over Trindle and also Price. I think the half and centre duel is pretty cool. He's owned by not a crazy, ridiculous amount of people, but a lot of people in the know, and 28 of the top 100 have got him in their side, and he's doing good things. But if you want someone that has probably a little bit of upside as well, but is cheaper at 330K, that's Jai Gray. He's a half and wing fullback there, and there is still a chance that Latrell is out for the rest of the season. Right now, it looks like a month. He's going to have a checkup in a couple of weeks' time just to see where he's at there with the recovery from his Liz Frank issue with his foot. But Jai Gray there, he's gone 39 in 68 minutes, 33 there in 80. He had 10 before he got injured there against the Panthers, and then he had the 50 against the Eagles with 2 line breaks and a try, and most things went right. He had the 2 errors, but outside of that, no negatives. And I'm expecting a few more of those games. Obviously against Dolphins, the Tigers, Canberra. I can definitely see one, maybe 2 50s in there for Jai Gray and some good scores in that time. But you are buying him for a 4-week period, and then you'll likely have to sell him on from there. And I do think he'll be closer to sort of 450 to 480K there by that point. And if you're sitting with a decent amount of trades, he's the guy I would target. I would target him over Geimer as well, just because there's no buys in this next 4 weeks. But it's just the amount of trades left and his ability to keep his spot in this side, which I think is very, very difficult with Latrell Mitchell. Let's move to the centers now, and Ruben Garrick is the big target this week if you can't get to Ewan Aiken. He's leveled out his break even after that terrific score, and you see that without try last week. Just the 1 assist there to get 69 is absolutely incredible. And if you look at this season in 2024 there, where he gets over even 30 minutes, he actually averages 52.8, which is 8.8 points below where he's at. He is going to miss 1 game for the rest of the year. He won't be getting any rests in that time. He's already had a couple of weeks off with concussion. Center wing fullback duel, not owned by everyone as yet, but I think he's a very, very important one to have. Ruben Garrick, get him in your side. Greggy Marzu, I'll definitely be buying Ruben over Greg's. Find that extra 100K, but he's a little bit more expensive now, 20K more than last week when I bought him, or 28K or something like that. Is that right? No, scratch that. I was looking at a different round, but even more than that. He was 479 before this week. So went up 36, which is cool. Got 2 line breaks, got a try. Hopefully for him and my sake that he continues around this sort of 200 meters gained and good tackle break numbers and the odd try. And if he can do that, he does have a fairly tough run here. Manly without their stars, not too bad. Broncos will have some guys back into a bye into Penrith. So it's not the best sort of pick right now, in my opinion, but I do think it worked last week and it's harder to pick him up now. Would still be okay, but it doesn't stand out to me as a terrific purchase. And obviously you've got Tommy Turbo is back on deck in the fullback slot with Kola out for 6 weeks now. They expect not 4. So definitely sell Tolu Kola there. For Tommy, we do see him being really, really solid this year, basically. If someone that I didn't own for the entirety of the year before he got injured, and he was just really, really, just solid is the word there. Mid-40s to 50s, the odd 60 there Actually got 66 against Panthers, which is funny how that one played out with a nice try. And then came back and got 42 at center there. Made 25 tackles for no misses. Very, very incredible. He said he would have roamed a bit more, but he just needed to get his legs under him and get his lungs right because he was blowing pretty hard. But they're a very interesting team to look at with Newcastle Titans into, obviously the Roosters there is going to be a tough one, into the bye, but Canberra, Warriors, Tigers in that next 3. So if you want to really enjoy your Manly games, buy him because it's going to be fun viewing. But obviously there's plenty of risk available there. He did get that one game there, which is done now, which is awesome for him to get on the other side of that injury one further week, which is nice, which is what we were going to want to see with Cleary next week. Jermaine Asako at 555, so 555 there for him. Priced at 40, averaging 42.3 for the season. The last few weeks for him have been very up and down. He's gone 32, 36, 60, and then 39, and that 60 include a runaway try there. So with Asako, I just think it's a bit tough to buy him at the moment. He's going to be very up and down. You can see there 20s, 30s, and then 67, 70, 74, 60. So probably a bit tough. I think there's other guys to target this week rather than spending up for Asako. Definitely go a little bit further to Garrick or go down to one of those other guys I just mentioned. And then Jaden Campbell at 632. He's a very terrific buy as well. I'm very scared and sad not owning him anymore, but I needed to sell him, unfortunately, to get him on the park. And if I did need a wing fullback this week, I would definitely be targeting him because I think that obviously with the goal kicking, with the general kicking in play that he has in certain weeks there, obviously it's not a crazy amount, 233 and then 118 meters. They didn't have to kick too much in that second one, but he got that 40-20 as well in that second, the game prior before that. So he's gone 57, 61, 89 at 5/8. And against Parramatta, Manly, Dolphins, I think he can still score really, really well. And for those that are still holding on to him, good stuff to you. I will be jealous this week. So I think that says enough as him as a buy. I think he's a really solid one. He's got that spot at 6. There's obviously a bit still to work out with AJ and Keeney, but it looks like 6 is his spot. And unless anything changes pre-game this week, he's still a really good buy. In terms of the holds or sells, KO Weeks is an easy one that you can sell, but I do understand the hold as well. If you just look at those last couple of games, he played fullback in these last two, 47 and 46, with the runaway try, but that, he's not going to be worse than like a late 20s type of guy, I think, in general. And he's priced at 43. You could hold him for a little bit, see what happens when Jamal Fogarty comes back, or selling is completely fine. So I'm leaning towards more of the sell territory myself, but it's just which of these guys that I do sell. So we're actually going through my players these last 4 that you guys might have in your boat as well, and obviously Weeks is owned very, very heavily. I think he's leaning towards more of a sell, just for the way I think that it's going to play out. He does have obviously the bye this week into Warriors and Rabbitohs, so maybe those two aren't so bad. But I think it'll get fairly tough against the Dogs and then Manly, Cows, Penrith from there. So I'm not sure how long you're going to be holding him, but he's someone that could be held or sold, and I'm still contemplating that. Shawnee Bloor, I think he's closer to the sell range, but he's at 542k, priced at 39. So you look at these scores from him, and the last few weeks before he's 33, he went 48 and 45, which is above where he's priced at. So he's easily someone you can hold, but he hasn't hit over 50 since I bought him in round 7. So thankfully I got one good score out of him, and then a few 48s in there has been pretty decent. 3 48s I've got out of him since that. So fine enough without being spectacular. So he's easily, could be easily sold as well. But I do think Weeks has more chance to lose money, whereas Bloor has a bigger chance of kind of holding steady with this. And I do think Bloor will play every single game after this bye. I'm a little bit worried in round 20 for him against the Roosters. You'd have Radley back, I suppose, but he'll play the rest of the games basically. And when Munster comes back, maybe he gets a little bit more footy, but I'm not sure at this stage. So there's a few things to think about, and maybe someone that's not too expensive that can play out the rest of the year is someone that is beneficial to be held. We'll find out. We will find out, that's for sure. So that's Blorey. Piakura is not someone I think is a beneficiary of a hold, that's for sure. He actually has scored fairly well since round 11, to be fair. 36, 38, 49, 28, 43. But then picking up a 12 on the weekend. It was against the Panthers, but it was super gross. Like, it's not anything you want in your playing 17, that's for sure. And the next few games aren't so bad, right? It's Dragons and it's Knights, but you don't want to cop that 12. And that's something that I'm deliberating with. And I do think I want to try and remove him from my squad just because he's got these in him. He's got an 8 in 52 minutes. He's got 28 in 70 minutes. He's got these in his game. There's 2 of those in the last 3 weeks. And he's not the worst hold in the world, but he's not not the best guy to have in your side going forward either. So I think he's definitely going to go in the next few weeks. So for me, like, does he go to Starling next week? Does he go to Joe Gray or who else do I say? Goma? Yeah, these types of guys over the next few weeks potentially. So do I just get rid of him this week and then work it out from there? We shall see. But Ruben Cotter, 724, I really want to hold him long term, and I do think that this video is going to help. But I'm worried that he's out this week. I don't exactly need him for this week, but could use his cash to buy a Kolomatangi, for example. Next week, does he back up? That's the big question. And then he's got the round 25 bye. I do think he plays everything outside of that. So let's look at what he's been doing this year when he gets, well, this year in general, he's averaging 54, which is absolutely incredible. I do think in recent history, he's looking really, really good because he's gone outside of the 31. That was disgusting. That's a long time ago. But since round 9, he's gone 83, 57, that 31 and 57. He'd gone 59, and then he had 45 backing up from Origin. Then he's gone 65 and 76 with really high minutes. So when he's been up in that mid-60s so let's look at over 60 minutes because I think that's what he's going to play for the back end of the season, right? So when he goes over 60 minutes, which has been normal at 66 minutes for a lot of this year, he averages 57.8. So it's actually a little bit under what he's averaging right now and what he's priced at. So 5.8 points. So yeah, I think it's very, very hard to sell. Obviously do want him to play next week, but I do think with the trades I might make, he's going to be a guy I want to hold. But obviously the question is, which one of these mids do I want to buy from the expensive guys as well, right? So these are all things to think about in our sides and moving, guys around certain positions and different things like that is all a bit of a question. So yeah, I'll have a little bit of think about it myself with Cotter. I do want to hold him longer term, and if I can get rid of a Pikura and maybe a Weeks or something like that instead, I'll try and do that. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that one anyway. So thanks so much for being here, guys. That is the buy, hold, risk it, sell for round 19. There's plenty of interesting information. Some guys you'll be buying for the rest of the season. Some guys you may be holding just for a couple of weeks. And obviously, yeah, the sells are in there as well. Be aware of you might be wanting to buy someone named Nathan Cleary next week or the week after, or you might be wanting to get a Payne Haas or a Yo or these types of guys. It might not be next week. It might all be round 21 that you make a bit of a splash. So have a look at all that, work it out for your side, and I will be catching you I won't be doing a short version of this just because it's, won't be needed. I've got a lot of videos coming out, and Supercoach will be coming out after this one as well. So thanks so much for being here, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video as always.